All right, let's begin. Good evening, everyone, both here at the Municipal Building and on cable TV. The Platteville Journal, the City of Platteville, and the Main Street Program welcome all of you to the 2016 Platteville Common Council Candidate Forum. Tonight's forum is intended to help City of Platteville voters make an informed choice in tomorrow's Common Council at-large primary election, as well as in the general election April 5th, when two of the three candidates tonight will be on the ballot. Our intention tonight is to guide a conversation among the three candidates into city issues and how these candidates feel about these issues. The questions were raised during journal coverage of city government as well as email questions from journal readers. And we will start tonight by introducing the three candidates and asking them what they feel the most important issue of this campaign is to them. We'll conclude by asking each candidate why we voters should vote for that candidate. In between, we'll cover the issues in this campaign and perhaps even issues that the candidates themselves bring up. There are no formal time limits for answers. There is no bell to go off like in the presidential debates, but I would ask the candidates to answer the questions completely but succinctly. So with that, all city voters will be able to vote for the at-large seat to replace retiring Alderman Mike Dent. And those candidates are, from left to right, Darrell Browning, he is the owner of Browning Motors. Catherine Burke works for the Southwestern Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission. And Jeremy Johnson is the owner of Diesel Doctor. Now that I have briefly introduced the candidates, it's time for the candidates to introduce themselves and answer the question of why they're running. And Darrell can start. Why are you running for the city council?
Okay. I'm running for the city council on that because I feel the city needs my experience that have after being in business for 40 years. I've had to balance budgets. I've had to meet payrolls. And on the city council, I will ask tough questions, like how much does the project cost after it's completed on that? How about after it's done? How much would be lost in taxes if the city buys property on that? I mean, the old Ford Garage building is no longer on the tax roll. Chicago's Best on 2nd Street has been burned out for at least 15 years. The lot in between 2nd and Oak Street now belongs to the city. Do we put in a parking ramp on that? How much is it going to cost us to maintain the lights on the trail down by the Roundtree Branch on that? I was at the city council meeting when that trail was voted on. There was no mention of who cleans it, who pays the power bill on that, or how much one good throwing arm and a rock can cause in damage, and who pays for it on that. We need to do more with less on that.
All right, Catherine.
Well, first, I'd like to thank everyone who put this forum together and giving the candidates this opportunity. My name is Catherine Burke. And I've always been involved with community organizations since a very young age. My mother instilled volunteering and community dedication. When I first moved here, I started with the Dairy Days Committee. I'm now secretary. I'm also now vice president of the Main Street Program. And I'd like to be part of the Common Council to be part of guiding the future development of our community.
All right, Catherine, Jeremy next.
Hello, my name is Jeremy Johnson. I currently live at 550 Western Avenue over by Westview Grade School. All the new construction's going on with the school over there. I have my wife, Denise, is a school teacher at Neil Wilkins Elementary School. She is a 4K teacher. I have three children. Brenna is in 7th grade. I have Delaney, who is in 4th grade, and Evan, my boy, is in 2nd grade. I currently do a lot of volunteering for my children, things that I can help and grow and improve my children that way. I also am the academic or the alumni advisor for Sigma Tau Gamma fraternity, which is on Main Street up there. Try to spend time making that place nice and clean and respectful for the community. I moved to Platteville in 1992. I came here to go to college. I grew up on a small family farm. We milked about 50 cows. It was my dad and myself, grandma, great-grandma, and grandpa. And through that process of growing up on the farm, I learned, one, hard work, and also, two, is you help other people and you do the right thing. Through those type of activities, I've tried to live my life that way, and I've brought it here to Platteville. I volunteer multiple different organizations. If you saw the TH, I have them all listed in there. A few years ago, I started with the help of some other people, our snowmobile club was in a bad financial situation. Myself and a couple other people took it upon ourselves, used some of our own personal money, started a fundraiser for our snowmobile club, and currently we have built it into one of the largest snowmobile races in the southern half of the state of Wisconsin. We've taken that organization from being basically broke to having a surplus of money, bought new equipment, improved it overall vastly. Those are the type of things that I believe that I have to offer for the community is my knowledge, my small town homegrown knowledge. I chose Platteville as a community. I chose to live here. I wasn't born here. I wasn't made to live here. I want to live in Platteville, and I want to make it better, greater for my children so that someday my grandkids can be living here.
All right. Excuse me. Thanks. The next question, we'll start with Catherine, and the question is, what do you believe is the most important issue in this campaign, and what is your position on it?
I believe the most important issue of this campaign is managing growth, actually. There's a lot of development projects right now, and our residential base is growing also. The library block project is underway. We have the potential Ford site development. There's a request for proposals out at this time. And the residents of Platteville, the population is expected to grow by 1,000 people between 2010 and 2020. So there's a lot to manage with business and residential. Our industrial park is growing. And to be on that is we want our city to grow, but we have to manage that with innovative solutions. There's a lot of issues or concerns that will come up with growth.
Okay. Jeremy.
I believe one of the major issues that we have to deal with right now is funding or spending our income in a proper manner. We can have growth, and growth is fantastic, but what we're having in Platteville is we have a lot of growth right outside the city limits. We have people that are building houses. There's big subdevelopments like the Brown Deer Acres and all of those areas. It would sure be nice to have those built in our community. And why aren't they building them in our community? One, it's our taxes. People are scared of our taxes. It's the old stigma that's gone on for years and years and years since I've lived in Platteville. The taxes are too high. You have to build in a township. If we can't change our image and get people to want to start building in our town, in our community, we will never be able to balance our budget. Our buildings are going to get older. Our costs are going to continue to go up. I mean, we made some changes with the hospital and the parking garage or the ambulance garage. We made a big step there. We're going to have a very, very nice ambulance garage. Our fire department is looking at our building is being over capacity. They say they can't buy the proper trucks because they won't fit in the building. There's a lot of areas of needs. When you communicate to workers out there, the street workers, the water and sewer workers, and they talk about multiple items that the city owns. There's items that the city has that have been sitting unused that are basically brand new condition. And at some point we need to, not only as a council, but we need to get our staff involved with making sure that they're being frugal. They need to make sure that we don't have all this wasted spending.
All right, Daryl.
I think the most important issues facing the city in the upcoming year will be, one, what to do with the old Ford garage. Two, find some sort of solution for the parking here in Platteville. And three, keep investing in the infrastructure. How old is our sewer plant? I know that sewer plant is at least 60 years old on that. How many people sitting in this room buy bottled water because the water coming out of the tap, it stinks on that. It has an odor to it on that. So I mean, when does the city get hit with something like Flint, Michigan has, where the water is contaminated and the people can't use it? If we do not replace these old water mains, and we do not do it on a regular up basis, I know that the water main down by my garage is right around 100 years old on that. Now that will be replaced, but that's only 200 or 300 feet or 400 feet. That street's not very long where they're going to do that. So, I mean, we have to do more with less on that. I mean, we just can't simply raise taxes to the point where people will move out of town, but yet we've got to look at our infrastructure to make sure that Platteville is a city that people want to live in.
Okay, question number 3 is, does the Common Council adequately manage city government? Or is there too much micromanagement, or is it not enough? And a couple of thoughts that come to mind, of course, this always seems to come up as an issue when a new city manager was chosen. We have a new city manager, but there are also multiple committee vacancies. That has been the case for many years. And so my question again is, does the city council adequately manage city government or not? And we'll start with Jeremy.
My belief in the city council's role over the managing of their staff is that the staff are hired to run the city. Their job is to run all the day-to-day operations. They are to develop, if there's a problem or a need or interest, they find and do research, and they give that back to the council. Now, it is the council's responsibility to go out and verify that research. If our council members are not properly reading their packets or doing some research on their own to verify the information that they're getting from staff, then they would not be doing their job properly. I think that we have quite a few council members right now that do a very good job at making sure that they go out and they research and they make sure that the information in their packets are accurate. I do also think that there's some people that out there that don't understand all the information in their packet and need to ask questions. So I think right now I believe our city council is doing a fair job right now.
All right, Daryl.
I think that a city council person at large, at least, should be a voice for his constituencies on that when an issue comes up, that there should be enough public hearings for people to have a say, or the councilman has a responsibility to at least ask people what your viewpoint on this particular project, and put aside his personal feelings and vote for what the people want.
All right, Catherine.
The mission of Common Council is to establish policies and pass local ordinances and set a vision for our community. Our city manager is then to take those and oversee the operations. And I believe our council is doing a great job. We have a new great city manager, and the relationship is working very well.
Okay, next question. Are city services adequately provided for their cost or not? And if they're not, what needs to change? And we're going to flip directions, but start then with Jeremy.
I think our city services are from the adult standpoint, or the services given to our adults, I believe that they are pretty accurate or pretty sustainable and substantial what we have now. We need to, on the youth side, I believe that we are missing a lot of things on the youth. One of my things is I work heavily with the baseball program and my children in baseball and youth softball. And we currently don't have space for our kids to be able to play softball. There used to be backstops at multiple different parks that we could use, and a lot of those over the years have been torn down. We have one outdoor basketball court. I don't know if everybody thought about sending their kids outside or your grandkids and say, well, you should go play a pickup game of basketball. And we only have one full-size court in Smith Park. The rest, everybody can say, well, we have them at the university. But I don't believe us as a community, we should be focused on the university supplying us with basketball courts or tennis courts or those items. I think that's what our community should have, and our community parks should have more to offer. So from a service standpoint that way, I don't believe that we are close to having enough. I've always contended, and I believe a lot of people would agree, is that I believe our police force has plenty of size that way. I think that could be it's a substantial burden. I think our fire department, we're bordering on the potential of our fire department becoming a full-time fire department. I think we're just talking about getting a full-time chief. There's some other changes there, so there's going to be some growth.
Okay, Catherine.
So city services are a daily necessity, and ideally a city runs so smoothly that you don't notice that there is interruptions or that they're going on until there is disruption in city services. The garbage pickup is handled very well. Snow shoveling is handled well as it can be. We have great opportunities for recreation. We have a lot of parks and things like that. I believe the services provided to a town our size are well.
Okay, Daryl.
Repeat the question, please.
Are city services adequately provided for their cost or not? And if not, what needs to change?
I think that overall, our city services have really improved in the last 40 years. I mean, if the water main in front of your house breaks in the middle of the night, from what I see, there will be somebody there digging it up to shut it off and fix it. As far as the fire department goes, I've been a member for 47 years on that. And I can tell you this much, that the men down there that volunteer their times do one great job. And there's a lot of work involved in that fire department. But the other thing of it is we need to look at all aspects of what the city does and make sure that we keep them coming forward. I had a customer that is definitely in the 1% as far as income goes. He come to Platteville because he drove through on the highway and seen our city park. And when he seen it, he made a circle around the city park, and he moved his family here. Plus, he moved his parents here. So you never know what part, whether it's youth baseball, whether it's the fact that somebody driving through town sees the city crew digging up the street and repairing a water main, is what's going to bring the next person that will create jobs and be another family in town.
Okay, next question. Does the city adequately and fairly enforce its ordinances? And if you believe the city does not, what should change? And we'll start with Catherine.
I'm not sure if they do adequately enforce all ordinances. I haven't been subject to enforce ordinances, but I would hope that they do go out and they treat everyone the same. If the ordinance is set out there, it's for everyone to abide by. I mean, the community is supposed to be uniform, and we should make sure that we're enforcing them properly to everyone.
Okay, Daryl.
Question again?
Does the city
your mic.
Does the city adequately and fairly enforce its ordinances? And if not, what should change? This was, by the way, a question sent in.
The city enforces its ordinances fairly across the board? I'm going to say no on that. It seems to me that if there is a project that the city wants to do, that they treat that person not, in my mind, completely fair and equal. And I'll use the Pioneer Ford as an example on that. I was a new car dealer for 30 years. And I'm going to tell you this, that General Motors, Chrysler, and Ford Motor Company, if you mentioned the word new facility, you were going to be building one. And when the city and the university first contacted the Bolts about buying that property down there, and the Bolts mentioned to the Ford Motor Company that they might possibly be moving, that was it. They were building a new facility, irregardless of what the city does. And then all of a sudden, 2 years go by, and that property, now it's bought. But for 2 years, the Bolts had to fund all of that revenue to put into their new facility. So that's not fair. That the money should have been there before the Bolts asked Ford Motor Company about a new facility on that. So it's, like I say, I mean, if there's a development going on, it seems to be that the city doesn't treat you fairly, as fair as somebody just lives up the street.
Okay, Jeremy.
On this, I would guess that this question came in due to some of the more recent events that we have going on. One, we have the snow shoveling issue. I know the city council has gotten together and they're trying to work on a new policy on the snow shoveling to try to clear that issue up. Was that enforced fairly over all the years? I think maybe the ordinance wasn't written quite the way that it should have been written. An incident came up, it was over enforced, and it's probably created a little bit of a black eye for the city here lately. So it wasn't enforced properly for a few years, and then it did get enforced properly, and that created some drama. The other big issue, the big ordinance that we have coming up right now is we have the parking issue. We have St. Augustine's wanting to build an apartment building with a reduced amount of parking. We have the Steve's Pizza building, a large building that doesn't have the parking. It's a similar type of parking situation as, let's say, somebody that built out by like Benvenuto's out there, they would have more parking. So that one is really kind of a touchy subject. But our ordinances are written, and at some point we need to go back and review our ordinances and say, our ordinances for our downtown businesses need to be somewhat different than our ordinances for our businesses outside of town. And then the other ordinance that we have is we have ordinances in place about the fixing or the remodeling of houses and how long a house can be in the process of being remodeled. And there's a few properties around town that, people always bring up. That house has had the vapor wrap on it for how many years, and it has never gotten the siding on it, and it's been for years and years. I have a house down the street from myself that's been in some sort of stage of remodeling for since I bought my house in 2000. So it's been about 15 years, and it still isn't really done. We just have some ordinances that I don't think we are enforced, because you have to use some common sense with the ordinances and look at them and say, were they written at such a time that maybe as a city council we should go in and address those and fix them.
Okay. As it happens, snow and parking will come up later. So, but let's talk one more question that has to do with, I guess, city government structure. And this question is about the city manager position. Is the relationship between the city manager and the common council as it should be? Is that relationship between the city manager position and city residents as it should be? And if you don't think that's the case, what should change? And we'll start with Daryl.
The relationship between the,
City manager and the city council, and the city manager and city residents.
well, I think the residents of Platteville are the taxpayers. Therefore, they're the boss. Like I made an earlier statement, that a council person should be a reflection and a vote for whatever the residents of Platteville, the majority of the residents of Platteville want. Okay, as far as the council president working with the city manager, they better work together or nothing will get done. Okay, I mean, everybody pulling in one direction gets a lot more accomplished than when there's a bunch of fighting on that. So as far as that goes, otherwise than that, you got to vote me onto the council so I'll know more about this subject.
Okay, Jeremy.
I think the relationship between the in the council and the city manager is just pretty much as the name implies. The city manager is the manager. When I've been in business basically since I got out of college for myself or for another company. At one point, I was a district manager. We had 9 locations. I started with 4. I worked my way up through that because I was able to work with the managers at our location. I was able to go in, give them specific ideas, orders, directions, and give them goals and ideas. And we were able to build on that to the point that I was able to take over other regions and other districts. And basically, I became part of the whole state. I had stores up in Hastings, Minnesota, River Falls, all over because of the relationship that I could build with the manager. Is our current relationship that way with the city council? I guess kind of to echo a little bit of what Daryl said, I don't know what everybody's personal relationship is with the city manager, but I believe that everybody should, that is on city council, have a relationship with the city manager to some degree outside, but it has to be a boss versus employee type of situation. You have to go in, you have to go out and eat lunch with the city manager and figure out what's going on, and then you have to go talk to the people in the city and the constituents and get information, get ideas, and voice those. And then you get together as a council and you all put all your ideas together, and then you portray that as this is what we want you to do next. But to just go out to the constituents and have no relationship with the council or with the city manager, I don't believe that's fact. I think you really have to have a good relationship. The city manager's role, I think as a manager, not only should you guide the city, but you also should be the PR person. I think we, or hopefully me, as part of city council, my job is to make sure that the city manager currently, that she is doing her job properly. She should be taking input from the community also. And if those residences aren't happy with the results they're getting from the city manager, that's when they go to city council. They shouldn't be bypassing staff. Staff should take care of most of the issues. But if they're not getting, if the residents aren't getting what they want by going directly to staff, then they should go to city council. My door would be open to the ideas, suggestions, the policies that we could make that would make the city better, but not to fix all the little problems. That's what staff and that's what the city manager's for.
Okay, Catherine.
I believe our city manager and common council have a great relationship along with the city manager and the residences. And part of that is city manager Karen Kurt has been in her position since July of 2015, and she jumped right in, bringing new ideas to the position and working more with the common council and wanting to speak more with residents. She has an e-journal to talk about various things that are going on right now. She made sure that we had a neighborhood discussion on the parking issue recently. They had a visioning session for the Pioneer Ford site, and their recent proposal for 2016 for the various ideas that they have seem to be really involved with the Common Council and with our community. So I believe the relationships are working very well.
Okay, next question gets to kind of more specifics in certain city issues. By the city's plan from a few years back, the city is behind schedule on fixing city streets. What should the city do to get back on schedule, or is meeting a city street replacement schedule not really a priority as far as you're concerned? And we'll start with Daryl.
The, like I mentioned before, the city needs to invest in infrastructure. Okay. If, in order to get back on schedule and make sure that we don't have a situation like Flint, Michigan, I believe that is a reason for a tax increase as long as it's not permanent. I think I was at one of the council meetings and they mentioned almost like a lottery, I forget what it was called, on that to raise money up on that. But I mean, you can't attract the people that the city needs to attract industry that makes new jobs on that. So getting the city back on schedule to replace streets is extremely important. The infrastructure has to be dealt with. Like I mentioned, our sewer plant is at least 60 years old on that. And how much longer is it going to last?
Okay, Catherine.
Could you repeat the question, please?
By the city's plan from a few years back, the city is behind schedule on fixing city streets. Should the city do things to get back on that schedule, or is the schedule not that important in your mind?
Well, I believe I would have to look more at the schedule and see how far behind we are on that. I know they're doing, I believe, less than a mile in repairs this coming year. I'm not sure if they're supposed to be doing a mile or 2 miles a year, but we look at how far they are behind, and we should get back on schedule and looking at innovative solutions for that. Infrastructure, as Daryl says, it is important and we need to focus on that, but that depends on other priorities for that year.
Okay, Jeremy.
I think that when you run a business, and I think the city is run like a big giant business, that you have hiccups that come up in the road, and that can change your outlooks. You're planning 4 years ago to what's going to happen for the next 10 or 12 years. That's a good projection, and that gives you a pathway to go, but you can't 100% go by that. We may have a recession. We don't know. Anything can happen. We can have a tornado that can come in and shut our town down for some time, and we have to allocate resources that we have. I don't believe just because we set up this guideline that then what else do we drop? We can't just increase our spending and say, hey, everybody, your taxes are going to go up because we're behind on a couple roads. I think that it's sad that we're behind on the roads. But did that happen for things outside of our control, or did it happen because we made a mistake? Somebody on staff or somebody in the council made a policy that put us behind, or was it just that's business? Business is dealing with hiccups in the road and coming up with a new plan. As long as you're on the same course for that long term ending goal, you stay the course. I don't think there should be made up if it's not feasible.
Okay. Tied to that, there are 3 big ticket proposals, probably more than that, but 3 big ticket projects at least on the city's horizon. Work on this building, the municipal building, an expanded or new fire station, and work on the museum building. Which of these projects should go ahead, and how should they be funded? And, as has been proposed, would you support a citywide referendum to raise taxes to fund those projects? And we'll start with Catherine.
I don't believe raising taxes would be a solution. Only portions of taxes would actually go back to the project, we need to look at innovative funding solutions like they did with the library project and other projects, and making wise investments. Those three big projects are ideal, and I would first look at each project, the age of the building, and see what exactly needs repair. Without that information, I couldn't say that the museum is more important than the new fire station. Of course, the fire station is important, but without having the exact details, I couldn't say right now which one is more important to work on. But first thing to do is look at it, what can we prioritize by looking at the age and the benefits it brings to the community.
The building starts making noises, we ask the question. Jeremy?
I think that from the fire station side of it, I think that the fire station needs some upgrading. With everything, you're always going to have areas where you can cut spending. You try to leave it up to the people in that organization to make the best judgment for them. We were down at Midwest Motorcycles a couple years ago, and we saw a new Ranger going out to a fire station, which wasn't ours, but it went out to a local. They installed like $5,000 worth of rims and tires on this Ranger to be driven out in the country to be picked up if somebody was to have a wreck on a snowmobile or something along those lines. And they weren't needed. And that's the kind of stuff that we can't be having. If we want to build a new fire station, which I believe we have to have the right equipment, we want growth in our community. If our services, and this comes back to the services, our fire department is a service. And if they can't order the trucks that they need and then that needs to be our number one priority. This building here, at what point do you start looking at buildings and look at cost effectiveness and long-term feasibility about tearing them down or closing or moving or making long changes? And that I have not been part of, so I don't know what the feasibility of remodeling, let's say, this building versus building a new building. It probably isn't feasible, but I don't know. You look at, in business, McDonald's, they looked at remodeling their building, and everybody says, well, why would they tear that building down? Well, it's going to be $1.5 million of remodeling in that building, where they could move out to the new facility, and for basically $500,000 more, they could have a brand new building. And sometimes that makes sense. And if I was to support a referendum similar to when the schools had the referendum, we're adding on buildings and we're adding on space and we're remodeling, but in the end, sometimes building new is better. It, in the long run, can save you a lot of money because you don't have the long-term repairs. We can remodel in here, and then we can have a roof problem, we can have heating and ventilation problems. There's all these costs, and that needs to be properly analyzed. And I don't have all the numbers to look at all these, and so I can't answer all of them.
Okay, Daryl?
One thing I'd like to know is how much it costs to heat this place. It's got to be atrocious on that. So building a new city hall, I think, should be top priority. Now, we own the O.E. Gray School. There is a lot of land behind it. Now, whether that's a place that we could put a new city hall, I don't know on that, but I believe it's something to be looked at. Like I mentioned before, I've been a fireman for 47 years. The building right now it's crowded down there and almost unsafe when guys are running to get on trucks when there's a fire on that. But by putting 2 more bays or 3 more bays to the west off of Main Street, which Main Street is wide enough that those trucks can back into them, that would be a solution on that. Now, yes, we'd have to buy out Donnie's Precision Auto, and that would put parking in there for the firemen. But otherwise than that, I mean, on the fire department, we just took the doors to the east that were hard to get into and replaced them with a big wide door, which made it, it's a double door, which has made it a lot easier for the trucks to back in. The kitchen was just remodeled down there, just done, just done. It's not even completely done, at least it wasn't a week ago on that. So I mean, if we're going to spend that money on that building, then I think that the best solution would be is to just see if we could get Donnie to move or buy out Precision Auto and to tear that down, put in 2 to 3 more bays, and that would give the firemen adequate parking when we're coming in trying to make the trucks. I believe that the museum is important, but the city hall and the fire department should take precedence over the museum, and if we could do what we can do for the museum, if there's money, then fine.
Okay, I don't know how much this building costs to heat, but the heat certainly works. All right. Next question gets back to an issue that was brought up a couple of minutes ago, which is the city's snow removal ordinance adequate or not? And for those of you who don't know, you're of course required to remove snow from your property sidewalks within 36 hours of the end of snow, and then at the next business day, they send out the contractor. Is that adequate or not? And if it's not adequate, one direction or another, what should change? And we'll start with Jeremy.
Well, I had the privilege of sitting in on the city council's discussion about this one, so I know that it's a pretty heated topic. I think based off the way our city council is, we have the most aggressive city snow removal policy, and I believe there were changes made, or I don't know if those are actually enacted, but the warning system, I believe, was something that the city workers were told to do. I think shoveling a sidewalk, per the ordinance, every sidewalk has to be shoveled. And I think that's pretty much all it's written, is it just has to be free and clear of snow. If you have a sidewalk, let's say Sherwin-Williams out there where they built a new building, or the McDonald's where they built a new building, those sidewalks are on their property, but they end and there's grass on one side and you can't get on the sidewalk, but they have to shovel it. I think that the ordinance needs to have some common sense in it, and with common sense needs to be a good working relationship between Howard and our contractor. If our contractor is going to go overboard, it puts a black eye on our city. I think our contractor that we had this year has completely gone overboard with the debacle behind the Menards property. That needs to be really looked at, that contract. Do we want to go and look at the certain lowest bidder? Or do we want to look at somebody who has been in town and runs long-term ethical business practices? I mean, what some of them do is not, what's going on is not fair.
Okay, Daryl.
As far as the snow removal goes, I believe you should have to shovel the sidewalk on that. But I think that the way the city passes out the bill to shovel your sidewalk, I don't think it's fair. I know a gentleman that lived over by the university, and I have lived over by the university, and I can guarantee you that if there's 5 snowflakes fall on the sidewalk, there is a student that is stomping it into the sidewalk on that. So this gentleman made one pass down his sidewalk with a snowblower. His snowblower was 24 inches or whatever. He got it opened up, and he had to leave town on that. When he come back, he had a ticket. I was at a city council meeting where a gentleman was sent a bill to shovel his sidewalk, and he had photographs where the street hadn't even been plowed on that. I feel that if we're going to do this, and people, I mean, it's a safety issue, okay, for people that are walking on that, and there's enough students that walk that we need to address it. But I feel that at least when the people that are riding around looking for those sidewalks to shovel, they should be required to put something in the people's door that, you know, if this isn't shoveled by 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, you're gonna get a bill from the city. I mean, it's just, considering that half the town has sidewalks and half the town doesn't.
Okay, Catherine.
As most communities in Wisconsin, there is a snow removal ordinance. It's to provide safe sidewalks for everyone. Clearing it within 24 hours, I believe, is a normal time range. But we have a lot of walkers, we have a lot of bicyclists, and we want to keep our sidewalks safe. Possibly we need a better communication to either new residents or new homeowners, giving that information up front, letting them know that, you know, there is an ordinance, be prepared when the winter months. I know there is a communication via Nixle giving homeowners that issue that, you know, they have 24 hours to clean the sidewalks by the next business day. But possibly we need more communication to let homeowners know about cleaning the sidewalks.
Okay, next question. The state has been reducing aid to the city of Platteville. This doesn't look like anything that's going to change anytime soon. Therefore, how should the city deal with declining state funding without just raising taxes? And we'll start with Jeremy.
We have to become creative. One of the things that I look at this last year is that I believe, Luke, we have an area over there that was earmarked or given to the city to become a soccer complex or soccer fields, and that is lacking fill. It's right over behind the high school, and all it needs is fill. We do these street projects, and we haul fill to Terry Schaefer's farm, 7 miles north of town, when we could have hauled it about 200 yards off of the street and filled and got our soccer complex, moving in the right direction. There's no funding from the city to build this soccer complex, but our street, we paid more to haul this stuff. We could kill two birds with one stone. And when our city and I'm not saying it's our staff's total responsibility, but I think it's our city councils, it's our citizens' duty to try to figure out how can we save more money and throw those ideas out there. I'm an idea man. I come up with a lot of ideas. I come up with a lot of potential solutions. I'm not sure that 100% of them are great and accurate. Some are pretty good, and some aren't so good. But we need to bounce those ideas off other people. And somebody says, "Well, that's not such a great idea." And you're like, "Yeah, I never thought of that." And that's how this open commerce business city needs to work, is having ideas and have a relationship where we bounce ideas off of people. I don't know how many of our city councils, how much do they get together and bounce ideas off of each other outside of our normal agenda? Just driving around the city and you look like, what's that? How can we have that? Ask the question. I think it's our responsibility. We have to figure out how to think outside the box and come up with solutions. And I think there's a lot of areas that we can save money. It's just that we don't always think of them because we just get in our trance and we just go about our job and our duty.
Okay, Catherine.
Right, state funding has been reduced to municipalities for the past 5 to 10 years, and there are a lot of projects that are going on that I believe the Common Council has gone through and looked for innovative solutions. Again, the library project, the Pioneer Ford site, they're looking at innovative solutions. The community is also involved. The PCA went through a lot of grant process and writing to get that trail approved. We have a lot of great residents in this community, our Common Council, looking at innovative solutions for funding. And it does depend on the project, what you can and can't do. And so I would like to continue that. I've previous work is researching policies and best practices from various communities, and I still do that. And I think I could bring that experience by looking at innovative solutions and funding.
Okay, Daryl.
We need to not waste money, okay? An example of this, when Larry Berkey was our city manager, the computers were constantly going down. We hired a firm to come in here to tell us that our computers were old, okay, and that our routing systems were old on that. When I could name you 4 people here in Platteville that make their living by working on the networks of computers and programming them. If we'd have asked those people to come in here and do an evaluation of the computer system, I'm sure that for hundreds, not thousands of dollars, they would have come in here and done it on it. So I mean, when it comes to something like this, where the expertise sits over there at that university, we need to ask them, you know, hey, can you come in here and tell us why our computers are collapsing all the time? The next thing is, workers need incentives. In order to do more with less, you have to get more productivity out of your employees. So the city needs to look at a lot of the positions that they have working for them, and needs to incentivize work so that we get, sooner than 80% efficiency, we get 130% efficiency on that. And by that, we can control our budget enough that the money that the state is not going to give us or cutting back on, that we can continue the services. Because like I said before, the Little League baseball program, you don't know who that's going to attract. Why somebody might move to Platteville just because we have Little League baseball.
Okay, next question, and Daryl mentioned the university, I think. Somebody did at any rate. So that's where the next question is. How would you evaluate the city-university relationship? Their cooperation, too combative, too much UW-Platteville influence, what? And we'll start with Catherine.
We do recognize, we need to recognize the university is one of the biggest employers in town. Numerous faculty, staff, and students are part of the community. They live here, work here, shop here, and I believe the relationship has grown. There's a lot of collaboration between the university right now and the city, whether it be on the shuttle and the taxi service. I believe the university police and the city police are working more together. And I believe the relationship is growing, and the city just needs to keep those lines of communication open and foster that relationship.
Okay, Daryl.
The question is,
The city, evaluate the city-university relationship.
I think the relationship between the city and the university should be exactly the same as the city and all the businesses in town, because the university has a lot of employees, pumps a lot of money into this town, but also so does Walmart and Menards or other businesses. At one time, I had 10 full-time employees on that, and my payroll was pretty good on that. So as far as the relationship goes in between the city and the Platteville, it should be the same as the relationship in between the city and the rest of the businesses. Now, being the university represents such a big working force, that if the city can help the university gain grants, whatever else is available from the federal government or the state, the city should put all of its resources behind any kind of incentive to help the university grow.
Okay, Jeremy.
I think that the university is a big elephant in the room that everybody likes to kind of walk around, they don't really want to talk about. It is the largest employer, and it's probably a lot of reason that the city is the size that it is. It has a lot of economic impact. I bet I don't even know the numbers, but if we didn't have the university, our city would be completely different. I wouldn't probably have come to Platteville. We cannot treat it unfairly, though, compared to our businesses. We have as our housing and these students, we're a lot better off having these housing living off campus where they're on tax-paying structures. I don't know how much we have businesses on the bottom floor of that Roundtree that could have been privately owned businesses, that could have been tax revenue generating businesses. We have parking issues based off of that Roundtree, that we have residences who live in that neighborhood that now have to have parking permits to park on the street in front of their own property. We have ordinances intact right now that say, I believe there's an ordinance that says if you have rental property, you have to provide a certain amount of off-street parking. And not all of those get followed. The enforcement is very, very hard and difficult. But I believe that the building of the Roundtree property, the dorm down there, without parking was a very was a poor decision. We made the property on Washington Street over there. They built a really nice facility, and we made them have parking. So, because the university does it, I don't think they should get preferential treatment, or they should be able to break our ordinances. And to allow them to do that just is not right and not fair. We have to give our private people a fair opportunity to provide the same services that the university has. And that again goes back to my thing in the beginning, is increasing our city's revenue. When we give things to the university, we take away from private dollars, and private dollars pay property taxes. And that's what we need to increase.
Okay. Next question, which is kind of tied to all of that. Is the city adequately promoting business development, economic development, and downtown development? And as you know, there are a whole bunch of organizations: Main Street Program, the Platteville Regional Chamber, the Platteville Area Industrial Development Corporation, the Business Incubator, and other groups that get city funding for economic development of one sort or another. So the question again is the city adequately promoting business development, economic development, and downtown development? And if not, what should be changed? And we'll start this time with Daryl.
I feel that the downtown lacks parking, and that it hurts. I mean, I have come to Main Street to try to do business, and I had to drive down to Heiser's and turn around, come back up Main, and by the time I got back up Main, this parking stall I seen on this side of the street was gone on that. When the people in the apartments over the businesses and the business owners are taking up a lot of the spots on the street, we need to supply parking or solve the parking problem for all of Platteville. I mean, St. Augustine's project over there, the library, that doesn't have adequate parking. I'll guarantee you that on graduation day, that when every motel in Platteville is full, the library won't have any parking, because it will be full of people in here for graduation. So, and Steve's Pizza, people, I mean, I don't really think that anybody believes that somebody's going to walk from the Mound City parking lot up to Steve's Pizza. Okay? They're going to park over here by the park, or they're going to park in the Livingston State Bank drive-through. They're going to park wherever they can get a car in. So in order to help the people downtown with business downtown on that. City has to supply or solve the parking problem. Okay, now I have run for city council before. Okay, and at this very chamber, at this very discussion, I had my opponents look at me and go, the parking problem in Platteville is only a perceived problem. If people would walk 3 blocks on that, there wouldn't be a problem. Well, I'm telling you that I'm sitting in front of you with a TENS unit on my back because I fell and hurt myself. If I gotta walk 3 blocks to spend money, I'm going someplace else that I can drive up to the door on that. And as far as the rest of the businesses on that, if we have good infrastructure, good water, good sewer on that, we keep the streets plowed and we keep them repaired, business will find a way to survive and be profitable. When I say the streets and infrastructure, just last week, I had an automobile in my shop. I took over $400 away from a family that they hit a chuck hole in Platteville. I told them, contact the city on that. They should pay for this. But it took out a wheel, took out a tire, took out a tire out end, and by the time I got all done, got that car back aligned on that, their bill was over $400. So by having crummy streets with holes in them, it cost you money on that. How many people in this room have had to have their car aligned because they hit something? It's important.
Okay, Jeremy.
I think that our city is attempting to draw more businesses. I think the Emmy Roth plant was an attempt to draw more businesses. In hindsight, it didn't probably turn out to have the draw on the economic impact on our community that we had hoped. There's some mistakes that everybody makes throughout time. You go with your feeling, you do your research, and you get all done, and it didn't work out the way that it happened. And there's always those projects, and we can sit back and I can nitpick and say this project or that project or that. If they don't turn out, we just have to continue to move forward and come up with more and continue to grow the community. Are we trying? I think we're trying. I mean, what we're doing with the Pioneer Ford property, I think that is a good attempt. If that property with contamination and other issues, we would have a really, really hard time getting a private buyer to come in and buy that property as is and then demolish it to make some other building. Buying that property is probably one of those necessary evils that you have to take. I'm saddened that we don't have a convention center. And I should paraphrase this, my good friend is buying the one in Belmont, so I should change my opinion on that. But I think Platteville lacks a convention center. I think the library block issue that we had basically eliminates the possibility of getting a convention center in Platteville for several years because we took the TIF district on a new motel downtown when we could have had a hotel convention center out by Walmart where Mr. Schneller had some property that he would have liked to do it. And you could look at it and say, well, in the last 10 years, we could have gotten something out there and they haven't done it. This is something to move. I think sometimes we're so hasty to move forward that we do miss the big, long picture goal. I like the fact that the library is getting bigger, but I think it could have been done in different creative ways. That we could have left the opportunity for somebody privately to build a nice, larger hotel, convention center, swimming pool, that thing that would have economic draw more than we're taking residences that are always, this hotel is going to take people that are already here for the university and we're just going to house them a little closer. It's not going to draw anybody to our community. It's going to have zero impact of getting people here. But you add a convention center, and that hires people. That hires people to staffing. We have wedding receptions here. There's lots of possibilities. But we gave that up when we did. We gave all of that up when we built that, when we gave up the library and building that hotel downtown. And I think that was one thing that we missed.
Okay, Catherine.
I believe the city is adequately promoting business development. The Chamber, Haydick, Main Street, the Incubator. There's a lot of things going on right now for our community. They utilize various marketing, newsletter, radio, newspaper, reaching out to communities. The Incubator has a new kitchen for people that want to, utilize it on the weekends, or, they need a certified kitchen to make cakes or various things, or have a catering business. We're providing entrepreneurial opportunities for people. The Main Street program has a makerspace at this point, and the library block project is actually a great project. There were a lot of issues that had to be handled. It's difficult to bring a developer to a small town like this, and the city was able to bring the developer here, get a hotel, and we're hoping that with people coming to the hotel, they'll be able to walk right out of that hotel and use our Main Street businesses. We want to promote our Main Street businesses, and that is one thing that we can do. I believe there's always room for improvement, but it's going very well.
Okay, since this just came up, the next question has to do with parking. And it's become an issue again in the past few months with a couple of building projects. So the question is, should the city create a citywide parking utility to deal with parking issues downtown, near campus, and theoretically in the rest of the city? And why should we do this, or why should we not create a city parking utility? We'll start with Daryl.
Whether we need parking permits for the whole city?
Well, you'd have a citywide parking utility would deal with parking issues for the whole city, presumably, not just the areas that get the attention downtown and the campus area. That's one version of it anyway.
Well, like I've repeated, this is a repeat. We need to do something with parking on that. Whether it's the lot in between Oak and Second Street, whether we put a ramp in. I have mentioned it before. Chicago's best is burnout. Okay, it doesn't seem to be being repaired very quickly, at least, on that. And as far as the issuing parking permits, for me living next to the university, it was a godsend. I could at least park on my street on that. Because what happens is that the university oversells its parking. These young people coming back to school on Sunday night at midnight, they can't find a place over at the university on that, and then they park on the street and they get a $50 ticket. So we need to enforce parking regulations, including the university, on that. It shouldn't have a clean pass. I mean, when they built Roundtree, this place was full for people objecting to the building of it, and the biggest reason the objection is no parking on that, just adding all of those cars into town, because a lot of those students work, and they work on farms, they work in Cuba City, they work all over on that. They need that transportation. They can't be walking 8 blocks on that. And yes, I know there's a city bus, but have you looked at the city bus as to how many people is on that thing? When it goes by my shop 15 times a day, I look out and count the people. The majority of the time, there will be 0 on that bus. And I've lived here all my life, and I have attended city council meetings, and I don't have a clue how to get on that bus. On that, whether you stand out in front of it and wave your arms and hop on a pogo stick, hoping that it doesn't run you over. Where does it stop? When does it? How do you get on it? On that, we've done a poor job as far as telling people on that, because I know there's people in this room that just like me don't know how to get on that bus on that. So as far as the okay, you can go park up at Legion Field and take the bus back to your dorm, and all you gotta do is run out and wave your arms in front of it, and it'll stop and pick you up and take you up there. I'll lay it 10 to 1 odds that the majority of the college students that are living in the dorms over by the cemetery don't even know the city has a bus on that, let alone how to get on it on that. So we need to have a uniform policy on that as far as parking goes. It is a problem in Platteville.
Okay, Catherine.
I believe there is potential to put a utility together to look at parking. When I attended the neighborhood discussion, there was a lot of issues brought up, not just parking, but people speeding down Main Street and things like that. And so there's pedestrian issues there. But also what was brought up is that there is parking. It's just possibly underutilized parking spots to where people can't currently park. And looking at those solutions and seeing if we could use those parking spots that are surrounding Main Street. There's also issues within the community with the parking permits. And if we put this utility together, they could look at better signage, putting maps together of parking areas where they can park, enforcing permits or doing better promoting of permits. And also looking at promoting walking and biking around our city, promoting the shuttle or the bus. There are different things that they could do. But I think utility would be good to actually manage the parking.
Okay, Jeremy.
I believe that we don't need a parking utility. I think that we currently have rules and ordinances in place that control the parking. It's that when we choose not to enforce those rules, and that is the reason that it's brought up right now, is because there's been the last couple projects are talking about bending the rules on the parking. If we follow those rules, there's no parking issue. This university, over the last few years, we made a mistake. We didn't follow the rule when we built a dorm. We built a 600-bed dorm, and we didn't follow the rule. Let's put in parking. The rules are there. We don't need a utility. We don't need more people involved. We need to just follow the rules. We have the right people. We just need to follow them. We need to build if they're building apartment buildings, they need to have the right amount of parking. We can't let people come in and be like, oh, they're college and they'll be next to the university, so they don't need quite as many parking stalls. No, every college kid in today's day and age owns a car. And a lot of them down here now own multiple cars. They're college students. Why do they have 2 or 3 cars? I don't know, but that's what happens. We can't let the college, us as a community, make mistakes that the college does something and then it affects our whole area. Downtown, the college has been building parking lots. When I came here across from the, which at the time was a student center, which is now Alsvik, there was houses all down through there. And the university has purchased all of those and turned those into parking lots. Across from St. Augustine's there used to be a couple houses in that area near the library. They've tore those down. They've added parking. The whole streets across from Pioneer Tower, that there's 3 ramps there. Everything was going really good. Parking was getting increased. And all of a sudden we had a little hiccup. We allowed this dorm to be built without parking. If you took that away, parking wouldn't be an issue. Parking is an issue right now because Steve's Pizza wants to build this big building downtown, and I believe he's approved, but we want to do it by eliminating a street and eliminating parking. Well, we want to vitalize our downtown. We want more downtown. Our downtown was built back before people had cars. We were riding horse and buggies, or we were riding a horse up the street, and we were tying it off at the first building. And now we're trying to accommodate everybody having cars. In the 50s, every household had, 1 car? Mom didn't go to work. Times are changing, and we have to adapt to that. But to say that we need a commission to continue to deal with this parking, it's not an issue. We just have to we'll have a commission that's going to be like, we should put up some signs. Really? That's what a commission is going to do? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. We already know that we should put up signs. The city has pushed very hard. It's on their website of how to get on the bus. There's signs on all these streets that says this is a stop for the bus. I believe the college students all know how to get on the bus because they all use technology, and we've used the technology to get that. We have an opportunity to grow and to help reduce our parking issue downtown. Is, like Daryl said, is we have the old property that used to be Bowden's Brush was in it between Oak and 2nd Street. There's an area for parking. How many parking could that hold if it was left vacant? If it just became a parking lot? Right now, I believe a lot of people don't know that you can even park there, that it's city owned. Can you park there? Does it allow overnight parking? It'd be pretty easy to fix it with a sign, but we don't need a utility or a commission to come up with a whole bunch of other ideas to do it. We just need to do what we have, use what we have, use common sense.
Okay. Speaking of Steve's Pizza, that project has actually not been approved by the city council yet. It has been Plan Commission and the Historic Preservation Committee have put their 2 cents in on it. So my question is, since this is the subject that will come up for whoever gets elected to this seat, what is your opinion of the proposed restaurant project at Main Street and Chestnut Street as it's been proposed? And we'll start with Catherine.
I believe the final approval of the project is by the Historic Preservation Committee only. I don't believe it actually has to come to the council. They had to approve the vacating of a street behind his building that really isn't used as a street anymore and 1 parking spot. But it doesn't come down to the Common Council approving that project. It's the Historic Preservation. So I don't have a stance on approving that project.
Okay, Jeremy?
I am a no. It shouldn't go there. It's not. It's big. We're gonna have grain silos. We want grain silos in our downtown. Does that fit? We already have somewhat of a parking issue. We have, I don't know, Pioneer Ford property that we're opening up. Maybe we could build there. We want it downtown, but do we have to have it right in that area? Right now, the poor people at Hardig Drug can't even get any patrons into their facility to the close of business because Steve's Pizza already takes over their parking now. But yet we're gonna give them a bigger building, try to get, is it 3,000 square feet per floor? It's a big, there's a huge capacity of people. And it's going to create a logjam at the top of Main Street and that. We're going to have a new hotel across the street. We've got an intersection right now that can probably barely run the capacity that it has now. You try to come in, and then if you're coming up Main Street at a certain time and try to take a left out of there as you're heading west and take a left, it's almost impossible to get across with all the traffic coming this way. We're probably going to have to look at potentially upgrading those streetlights and to increase flow. If our community grows, it's projected to grow by 1,000 people in the next 10 years. How are all these people going to get through this intersection? And then we're going to put another building right in that intersection that is probably one of our city's busiest intersection and hardest to get through now. And yet we're putting a hotel there. We're going to put a big building. It doesn't make any sense. We could build it down to the Pioneer Ford. We're looking for something to put in a Pioneer Ford property. Wouldn't a big, nice restaurant with an indoor brew pub and all this be a nice fit for that downtown? You come in.
Okay, Daryl.
My vote, the way, and I do not know enough about the project to really make a vote, but from what I understand and what I've heard here tonight, my vote would be no, the way it stands now. My vote would be yes, with conditions of that if they shuttle people and make arrangements for parking in Piggly Wiggly or wherever, okay, and like the Uno's down there, if you go down to Uno's and decide to have more than one, they will let you go home and they'll pick you up and bring you back to the bar, and then at the end of the night, they will haul you home so you don't have to drive. Now, with a shuttle service put in to alleviate the parking problem and that extra traffic of people circling Steve's Pizza up there trying to find a place to park on that, my vote would be yes, because I, as a businessman, think that anybody that tries to create jobs should be supported.
Okay. Since it got mentioned already, briefly, I'll ask the next question tied to that, which is, what should the city do with the former Pioneer Ford buildings? And Jeremy, you may have already answered that, but answer it again then.
Well, I know
Your next answer could be more than what you just said.
Well, it could be more than what I just said. I mean, that's only one option. There's multiple options. I know that the city is putting out for bids and for proposals for developers to come in and work on that property. What happens if we don't get those? I mean, does it sit vacant for 2 years, 3 years? I know there's a TIF on it, so there's maybe some areas that'll work, but I think Steve's Pizzas, I think his idea of building this nice, big, large restaurant, I think that makes good sense. It fits, but is there other things? I think it would have been a great place for a hotel too.
Okay, Daryl.
A very simple answer: sell it, put it back on the tax roll. Let somebody, corporate, housing, I don't care what the people want to put in there, but let's get it back on the tax roll.
Okay, Catherine.
The property did sit for over 4 years vacant. There was concerns about the price and the environmental contamination. I believe the city paid about $900,000 for the property, and they received $650,000 in grants for the project so far. They have an RFP out until the spring to find a developer, and they're hoping to find one that will partner on the project with cleanup and then buy the property. The city did have a visioning session on that site, and there was a lot of great turnout and ideas, and the main thing is that whatever goes there needs to improve our tax base. There are a lot of great ideas, and most of it is that it should be a multi-story, multi-use development with retail options and housing options that will bring tax base to our community.
Okay, we're in the home stretch now. The next question is, what is your vision for the city? And where do you think the city should be 5 years from now? And we'll start with Jeremy.
I think for the most part, the city is probably going to have to stay the course that we're on right now. We're trying to recruit businesses to come here. We need to do that. We've had a few businesses in our industrial park that have closed in the last couple years. We need to figure out how to get our industrial park growing. We need to get the big vacant buildings filled back up. I think the handle on this parking is relatively simple. I think it really, our university is going to continue to grow. Our population is going to grow. At some point, I think the city is going to have to look at acquiring more land so we can have more options for people to build on. I know we made the purchase out in the industrial park, and we're putting in the new road over there behind the bowling alley area to get some more development. But at some point, we need to work on getting some more lots. And when I say lots, building lots for homes and desirable lots. Times are changing, and as with this, people like to have a little more land, and the houses and the lots are getting larger. We have a lot available behind Walmart and that kind of stuff, but I quite frankly, I don't know how much you'd really want to live in those areas. We have other areas, developments that we should go, and we need to offer more lots. We need to capitalize on the people that are moving to this area and wanting to build a house. We need to capitalize on that and make sure we have the opportunity that they can build those houses inside the city limits.
Okay, Catherine.
The vision that I have for the city is maintaining our family-friendly community, having clean, safe, and functional, providing amenities to people that are moving here, and to encourage more people to move here. As far as housing, we do need to focus on infill development, so there are plenty of houses in Platteville and areas to rehab. A lot of our housing stock is over 50 years old. We need to look at grants or programs to help homeowners refurbish them, rehab them, and work on that. But just maintaining this family-friendly community and working to provide amenities for people moving here.
Okay, Daryl, what's your vision for the city?
You gotta repeat the question. You're not
What is
using
your
the mic.
what is your vision for the city, and where do you think the city should be in 5 years?
My vision for the city is to help it grow, make it grow on that. And where it should be in 5 years, we should, in 5 years' time, our streets should be back on schedule for replacements on that. Our water mains, there shouldn't be a 100-year-old water main in the town anyplace, okay? And that we have attracted new businesses on that. Whether that be the university grows and employs more people, or whether it's, I don't know, something like the cheese factory that went in out in the industrial park on that. That's where the city should be in 5 years. Plus, we should have the housing development behind Walmart filled up and need another one on that, because people are building houses and moving to Platteville. The town has a tremendous amount to offer. I mean, I have customers that have moved to Platteville for the hospital, because medical care in Cuba City and these other small towns, just they didn't want to travel. They didn't want to be that far away from emergency help on that. So, you know, we need to make sure that our young professionals stay here, because it's not old like me anymore. I'm looking to pull the cover over my head and stay in bed on that. You need somebody that's a go-getter to come in and like the Ford garage. I mean, we've mentioned take the restaurant and put it down there. I mean, there's got to be thousands of ways that property could be utilized that would bring people to Platteville and be put back on the tax roll.
Okay, the next to last question is there an issue that has not come up tonight or hasn't come up at all during the campaign that you feel strongly about? What is that issue and what's your position on it? And we'll start with Catherine. She looks like she really wants to answer this question first.
I believe we've covered a lot of topics tonight, and I don't have anything to add.
All right, Daryl. Is there an issue that hasn't come up yet that you have a strong position on? Anything come to mind?
Many. But we don't have all night on that. Like have said before, we need to do more with less. And in order to do more with less on that, the city has to look at everybody's position, and we need to get more out of them. Like I mentioned before, I mean, 80% is not sufficient. We need to get 110%. We need to make wise decisions. It was a year ago or 2 years ago when I was running for city council, I had an employee of the city that come to me, and he was so mad that he just about ready to throw rocks on that. And what had happened is Larry Berkey, living in Mount Horeb, had made the call to pull the plows off the street. They were within 2 hours of finishing up the streets. And Larry called down from Mount Horeb and said, pull the plows. The next morning when they went back out, they had to completely redo what they had done the night before because the wind blew and they didn't have the snow pushed back far enough. These decisions cannot continue on that. It's just a waste of gasoline, man hours, and taxpayers' dollars.
All right, Jeremy.
I believe that we covered a lot of topics, as Catherine said. One, again, I've always said that one of my personal ideas or thoughts is getting our children and keeping more opportunities for our children. We don't discuss it a lot in the city politics, but again, I've hit on it quite a few times, I believe, and that's one of the things that I really push for. Whether it be of a space for our children to get together as a band and play outdoor concerts. We have the nice outdoor concert thing, but it would be nice if maybe we could get a little more of the kids involved with it to other activities. I mean, we have a lot going for us, and I think we have the door open, but we just need to finish.
Okay, the final question is for everyone. Why should people vote for you for the Common Council? And we'll start with Daryl.
I would appreciate your vote on that. And here's what I'll do for you, or try to do, at least to the best of my ability. I will make sure that we do more with less. I will apply common sense to my decisions on that. And I will try to bring forth new ideas like incentivizing the city employees so that we can get that 110% that we need to control our budget on that. And I'll do my best.
Okay, Jeremy.
I believe that I'm the right person for the position. I believe that everybody should vote for me based on my history in business. I came to Platteville to go to college. I have a small farming community background. I have work ethic. I put 100% into everything. I'd like to say 110%, but it goes against my math brain. I am a natural leader. I've maintained, I had 9 store locations. When I finally changed from that, I bought multiple locations. I've had 4 stores that I owned myself, that I was a leader. I had managers, well-paid managers, assistant managers, all that worked under me. I was able to step away to the point that I let my store managers run the stores, but also involved enough that I knew everything that was going on. I have that type of experience. I can come up with ideas. I can keep fresh. In business, we have to learn how to evolve. Our business, we have a certain business model, and that's where we started, and that's where we go. But as other outside forces impact that, be it the economy, gas prices, whatever, minimum wage goes up, all these things, we have to sit down and reevaluate. We have to redo our budgets. We have to relook at our advertising dollars. We have to be fiscally responsible. And I've learned that through business. I'm a community man. I've done a lot of stuff. I volunteer. I coach youth baseball. I coach youth wrestling. I coach youth football. I help with my daughter on the swim team, going to events. I help drive the bus for the middle school band to volunteer time. I'm an alumni advisor for a fraternity here in college, so I have the connection to the college. I have a great relationship with multiple business owners. I can get ideas off that. I'm a homeowner. I have my wife is a teacher. I have a great connection with the staff. That I've worked with staff on the community. I've worked with multiple ideas, multiple staff members. I think everybody can work with me. I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to take ideas. I'm willing to give them back and to spread them through the council. I think that's about it. Thank you.
Okay. Finally, Catherine.
I have worked in city and county government since I was 22 years old. I know and understand the complexities the local government has to go through, maintaining services while looking at budgets and operations. I've had the privilege to work for the city of Chicago as a graduate fellow, researching policies, implementing best practices, and collaborating with various departments. I hold a master's degree in community planning, and I work for Southwestern Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission, work with various multiple municipalities. I know each municipality is different and that we have to work with them. Community planning looks to proactive solutions instead of reactive quick fixes. And I believe my knowledge and experience can be brought to this common council. And as one of those young go-getters, young professionals, I believe I know and understand what they're looking for, and I believe I can bring that to this common council.
All right. I would like to thank the Main Street program. Are there any cupcakes left? Oh, good. Good. I'd also like to thank the city of Platteville, Jan Martin, Jody Richards, and Mr. Cameraman for their help tonight for their roles in putting on this candidate forum. We should also mention that Tuesday will also feature a primary election for the state Supreme Court with 3 candidates reduced to 2 to succeed the late Justice Patrick Crooks. And again, 2 of these 3 candidates tonight will advance to the general election April 5th. That election also will include 3 seats on the Platteville School Board, 1 Platteville Area Grant County Board seat, the Democratic and Republican presidential primaries, who's ever left at that point, and a referendum on amending the U.S. Constitution's First Amendment to allow campaign contribution limits. All of that's on the April election ballot. So those candidates and attendees who are able to stay here are invited to stay here afterward, and I would like to remind those here and those watching on TV that the candidate forum, I believe, will be able to be viewed tomorrow on Channel 36 and also on the city's YouTube channel, Platteville WISC. Thanks for coming tonight.